Okay, looks like we are live. I hope everyone's having a good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where everyone is in the world. It is Sunday morning here in the U.S., and the NFL season started a couple of weeks ago, so I'm excited about having football every Sunday. So as soon as we're done today, I have to watch my New Orleans Saints play. So, yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I'll be
You got
honest. I haven't watched football in a while. I think last time I watched it was when the won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
It's been a
that was
while.
yeah, the last time was 2011. So yeah, it's been a good 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a long time. I actually don't watch much sports at all anymore. When I was a kid, that's all I did was watch baseball, basketball, football. I was into everything, had playing cards, you knew everybody's names and all their stats. And now, I really don't watch much of anything. I've told you guys I actually don't have a TV these days. Uh, there for a few years, I did have a TV, but I never turned it on. I'd go weeks at a time without ever turning on my TV. So, like this afternoon, when we're done with this chat will end at 12 noon. That'll be about the time the football game that I'm going to watch will kick off. I'm actually just going to stream it here on my computer because I can't go home and watch it because I don't have a TV at home. So my other option is I typically go to the gym and work out on Sundays, and they have TVs everywhere, and they'll have all the games on. So
That's a great way to accidentally watch some football.
yeah, well, I mean, it's good. It's a good way to pass the time. You'd be surprised, especially working out. You get tired, pretty quickly. 30, 45 minutes in, you're like, you know what? Do I really want to put in the kind of time I know I need to put in at the gym? Well, if there's something interesting on TV, you'll put in that time because you're going to miss part of the game if you have to drive home. Because that 10, 15-minute drive home, you might miss something. So you're just going to sit there and watch the whole game.
That much is true.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
so
yep, go
actually,
ahead.
I want to interrupt you here because there's a very big and severe issue. First of all,
Okay.
and that refers to the thumbnail of this live stream and the
Yeah.
fact that I'm not on it. That's a
Well,
pretty big deal to me.
I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you'll make the next one.
Hopefully, I do. Because that's a very, very big deal to
uh,
me. Because I'm famous for being the Gentoo guy now. I got a
it,
shout out from Brody
it,
Robertson over it.
well, it's not hard to be, a big deal in the Gentoo community because there's only like 5 of you guys.
Yeah.
Big Bud.
Hey.
Uh, so let's talk a little Linux news here because since the last time we got together about 4 weeks ago, I wouldn't say it's been a slow news cycle. It has been a slow news cycle, but there's been a couple of big stories I think we need to talk about because I think everyone is excited now about finally. We knew it was coming with the announcement of the Steam Deck, but yes, Easy Anti Cheat and BattleEye are going to work on Linux, so everyone can now play their PUBG and Fortnite, whatever games people were.
I wasn't so sure it was coming. Actually, for a simple reason. Easy Anti-Cheat is owned by Epic, and Epic has been a bit of hot and cold with Linux. The the owner of Epic, the Tim Sweeney, has been a bit sometimes super okay with Linux, but other times just basically bashing it to the ground. So I was a bit concerned that it will not happen, but I'm
Yeah.
happy that it did. Maybe now some games will work that
Yeah.
didn't, but I'm
And just,
not so sure everything will work. Like
yeah.
some reporters
Just
are
a second,
saying,
Big Pot. The chat is saying that they can barely hear you guys. So let me check the audio settings. Everything looks good on my part. Is anybody monitoring the YouTube audio?
nope.
I can pull it up.
Yeah.
Before it was fine, like a few minutes ago. Everything sounded perfectly fine.
And it says now we can hear them. That's weird because I didn't do anything. So I don't know.
It's called the focus window effect. As soon as you grab the Pavu control window, everything fixes itself for you.
Yeah, this is very weird.
DTOS will be released when it's ready.
Yeah, I haven't worked on it at all in the last 3 weeks because I've been helping my sister who has had surgery on her Achilles tendon and can't walk. And her husband works offshore in the oil fields, and he actually works in the Middle East, like a month on, a month off. And this was his month to be away. So she needed help around her house. She's got a bunch of land out in the middle of nowhere, off the grid, bunch of chickens, turkeys, ducks, and quails, and pigs, and dogs, and cats. And, we're going to march them 2 by 2 to the ark, pretty much any animal she's got. And, of course, she can't take care of them if she's off her feet, so.
Is her last name McDonald to go with the song?
No.
Oh, okay.
Should be, huh? But, yeah, so, I've been getting up at daylight, a lot of days here in the last 2 or 3 weeks to help her out. Her husband's just got back in the last couple of days, so starting next week, hopefully my schedule will get back to something more normal. Because it was tough. This last month, I made some content. I was pretty much trying to stick to making some regular content, but it was hard because of everything else going on. It was hard for me to have time for myself. So next week, hopefully, things will start getting back to normal. DTOS, though, it's one of those things when I play around with it for a couple of days, it's close. I just need some time. The thing is, when I was at her house sitting with her all day, with my sister, when I say she lives out in the woods, like no internet, no nothing, like I can't carry a laptop and do anything there because there's off the grid, right? It's seriously, which I respect people that do that. I wouldn't mind doing that. I told you guys I don't like phones. I don't like TV. I could easily completely unplug from the world. I could be one of those people.
I'm still baffled that some parts of America don't have internet because they're away from civilization. Or here, basically everyone has internet, even if they're halfway up the mountain.
Have you been in Germany once? Fun fact, there's actually way better internet coverage in Kenya than in Germany.
In Slovenia, basically everyone has access to internet.
Yeah, that's true.
I know someone who doesn't have, but that guy lives basically on top of a mountain or a high hill that we here refer to as mountain, and even that we can fix nowadays with something called Starlink.
Yeah. Well, the problem in the U.S. is, compared to Europe, is population density. Like, it's very easy for somebody to move somewhere where their nearest neighbor is 20 miles away. You're not going to get cable out there. I mean, it would cost the cable company tens of thousands of dollars to try to service this one person out in the middle of the boonies. They're not going to do it. And you're not going to do it. Even if you would pay them, you wouldn't pay that kind of money just for, to be able to watch TV. So that you just do without.
But it is true that my country is small. I live in a rural area, like farms and everything, and I'm still 6 kilometers away from the 5th biggest city in country.
Yeah.
So
I live in a little village next door to a lake. My fastest internet connection still runs through a phone line.
I have a fiber connection.
I still have a hard line as far as a home telephone. I don't know why. Now it serves no purpose. I was always one of those people that just for emergencies it's nice to have, but nowadays it doesn't make any sense to have.
We removed that so long ago. We don't even have a home phone anymore. That thing got trashed so hard. Because
In
nobody used it.
2006, we stopped.
It made more sense for me back a few years ago because I told you guys I hate phones. Like I hate mobile phones. I would not have one other than the fact I needed one for work a few years ago. Like it was just no longer an option of not having one. So I had to have on call 24/7, had to have a phone on me all the time. Other than that, I wouldn't own one of these things. So that's why I had the landline. It's because that was the phone because I didn't have a cell phone. I was just, yeah.
Okay, somebody brought up why satellite is not a lot more popular in rural America. I have actually used satellite internet.
And there's
And,
reasons.
Trash. We know.
Okay, there's a daily data cap with Usenet of 500 megabytes. That is less than the average Arch Linux update.
Yes.
And that not only do you have a 500 megabyte data cap per day, you also have a 15 gigabit data cap per month.
Yep.
So you're just updating your Arch Linux system will actually put you over your data cap, and they will turn your internet off. They won't slow it down; they'll just turn it off. That's the problem with satellite internet.
Well, there's several problems. There's also the problem of weather.
Problem with satellite internet, there are many. First of all, if we go completely physics-based, they're too high up. They're in geosynchronous orbit.
The latency is too high.
And latency is crap. That's why Elon Musk with its Starlink, Amazon with its Project Kuiper, or if we go European, OneWeb from whoever it's making it, someone in Europe. It's
all low orbit.
It's all low Earth orbit. It's all actually the lower part of low Earth orbit. So that the latency is smaller and speeds are much higher. That's why. That's one reason why they're in, because there are lots of satellites. Because lower you are, more satellites you need to actually cover same area. There is much bigger bandwidth. Especially with something like now Starlink satellites have its laser link. It's basically lasers between the different satellites. Actually, technically speaking, speeds should be higher than your standard fiber connection.
Oh yeah, like satellite internet's wicked fast when it comes to like the raw throughput. It's purely the latency that's the problem.
And especially with this is because light travels faster in vacuum than in fiber. So speed of between the satellites themselves, so in throughput and everything, will be basically a lot faster than on Earth. How we on Earth do it, and because there are so many satellites, a lot of people can connect, and there will be high speed data. Especially if now people will decide, or hosting providers will decide to host in space, because that's actually a better solution. Those who will host in space will have better access to faster internet, or their users have fast connection than those who will have on Earth.
Yeah.
And one fun thing is Google actually has Starlink ground stations in their data centers, because they did a contract with SpaceX so they have slightly faster access to their servers through Starlink than people over fiber.
And when you had other George joined us twice, so I'm assuming he joined us one time and got booted or dropped out, and then he joined again. Yeah, because I've done that several times where I've had two of me on screen. Hopefully he gets that worked out. I have noticed, though, that we have less issues with Jitsi than we ever had with Zoom.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
I've always had less issues with Jitsi than Zoom, even when Jitsi first came out.
Well, in the early days, I wouldn't say that.
The video feed itself might not have always worked, but the audio's always been fine.
Yeah.
To me, Jitsi always was a bit more problematic to use.
Yeah. In the early days, I would say, but here lately, I've noticed that it's a lot better.
Yeah, we have the same in Switzerland. We use Jitsi for the Linux user group. We meet one time a month, and we never had trouble. But I have to say, we have a good Swiss internet provider who has a Jitsi server, so we can connect to Switzerland.
Oh, cool. It's nice to hear that there's Linux user groups still out there going strong.
It's not very strong, but there is still one.
Yeah, because many of the ones here in the U.S. they've died out over the years as people have kind of lost interest in LUGs. Even though Linux is growing in popularity, that's the weird part. But I think part of the problem now is Linux used to be this weird, niche operating system that was hard, where you actually needed help from other people, where you had to go you'd carry your laptops to your LUG, and people would install Debian or Arch or whatever on those machines, because back then, it was tougher, a lot tougher than it is now.
Really, the main reason you went to LUGs was to get the installation media for various distros.
People would swap CDs.
Yep. Yeah. Then the internet got halfway decent.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it too is that a lot of people just stopped, meeting in person a lot, and it just became a less physical social than it became a digital social event. And
yeah,
but you lose that cohesiveness of having a group of meeting in person. So. Yeah,
but Linux users were never social, so they were always that.
They were happy that those things didn't need to be.
Well, maybe it was more of the professionals who did it as a day-to-day job that had to go into an office that would meet then, and it wasn't so much the ones that were more of the social, people who like the social distance no matter what. So.
Yeah, so I was looking at a stat counter chart the other day because somebody posted it somewhere on the internet. It was probably on Reddit. And I know Linux operating system popularity, I know people sometimes take this as being gospel, like these stats are actually true. They're probably not correct, but what you can learn a little bit is trends.
What's the number?
And, well, somebody tracked them from 2009 to 2011, and you see a very clear line. From 2009, Windows is at 95% and goes steadily down to 75% over 11 years. And Linux starts at 0.69% in 2009 and goes steadily up to only 2.4%, but still, that's more than 3 times as many users in 11 years. That's still not many users, but to say that we haven't gained a lot of popularity, I think too many people want Linux to be on every machine out there, and that kind of growth is just not possible. But when you say that we've more than tripled our user base in the last 11 or 12 years, that's very impressive. I think when you put it that way, it makes more sense than, we're only 2.4%. Yeah, I know.
My problem will come in a couple of, in a year, where there will be a huge boom of Linux devices or Linux device, a single one. Problem is that that number will be highly artificial, because most people who will buy Steam Deck will use it as a gaming console and won't care what operating system is on it, and if it's Linux, if it's Windows, their games work. It will be an appliance. It will be just like it's there. If they have PlayStation, do those people say they are FreeBSD users because PlayStation OS is based on FreeBSD? Those people count as FreeBSD users. No,
well, I'm glad.
Funny proposition to even think about.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that 2.4% number I gave for Linux, the latest stats, that actually does not include Chrome OS, because I know people ask. Chrome OS is tracked separately. Chrome OS is like 1.7%. Stat counter. That was Stat Counter's numbers. Steam, Steam tracks its own charts. I haven't looked at them lately, so. But oddly enough, I say Windows has kind of steadily been going down over the last 11 or 12 years, and Linux has gone up, but we haven't gone up enough to. Where are all those Windows users going? Apparently 16%, 16% of the desktop is Mac OS.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
That's
Yeah,
huge.
Yes, that is. That's huge.
Okay.
completely understandable, actually.
That all comes down to marketing, though. That's why. If
Yeah.
anything, Apple does an amazing job of marketing and telling everybody that their devices are amazing, but they're not telling you that that Mac OS is just as bad as Windows 10 when it comes to telemetry.
I'm gonna say this way: Mac has, especially or Apple in general, has this cult culture, and that's what's drawing people because you have this walled garden. As soon as they buy an iPhone, they will wanna buy Mac because they work great together, and it's a snowball effect that will for sure happen because everybody wants an iPhone because their friends say it's a great phone.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say like this: I bought myself this Samsung a couple of weeks ago, and I'm for sure not gonna exchange it for an iPhone, even if iPhone has so many cinematic modes or whatever the hell they introduced now.
Well, look, I won't talk necessarily about the hardware of the phones, but comparing the Samsung to the iPhone as far as the operating systems on them, I don't like iOS. Like it's just like Android is much more for somebody that likes flexibility and customization and likes to play around with their computers. If you like to do that on the phone too, you can't do any of that kind of stuff on an Apple phone. They just don't allow it, right?
Well, most of the settings on my phone are on default, so yeah. And all the settings I would change I changed on this guy, I could change on iPhone. I have other problems with Apple devices, including some that are completely insane. Like, I don't like their prices. They are overinflated for what you get. That's simple.
But they also hold their value better than other hardware.
Yeah,
if you resell,
that is because of the cult culture that Apple, or more specifically Apple fans, have created.
Well, sure. The same thing happened to Beanie Babies back in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, the thing
dropped out for that.
The reason the Apple products hold their resale value is mainly because of like the operating system. Like if you want to run Mac OS, you need a Mac computer, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason they hold their resale values. Right.
Exclusivity.
Yeah.
If they just can run it on any device, but to run it on any device, first of all, that's against the terms of service, so technically it's illegal. But second, you know what you need to run it on? Let's say your Dell laptop. You need one Mac device so you can download the image.
There's many people that have that one Mac device, that one old MacBook that they bought used because they need a Mac to occasionally test things out on, and that's part of the resale value of them.
There is another that a lot of people don't know why a developer needs a Mac device. Because if you want to upload to their store, whatever store it is, it's for iOS, it's for Macs, it's for WatchOS, whatever, or for tvOS for that matter, as their television set-top box. You need a Mac device because there is no other software that can upload to their store.
I thought you were going to go the web developer route and say that you need to test Safari.
No.
So
technically you can test WebKit on any operating system. Problem is that uploading to the store. So basically, if you have an iOS only, or if you want to sell on their iPhones, only way to get that app on an iPhone is to put it in their store, have a Mac device, so you can upload it. First of all, pay them $100 to get their development certificate, so that you are then among the people who can get in. Then, of course, if you have any kind of transaction in your app, 30% of that money goes to Apple anyway.
Yeah.
And only now they allowed you to, or they haven't yet allowed you to, they will in future, sooner than rather later, because the practice of only allowing their payment processing has been decided that is anti-consumer. What is that?
Yeah.
But
now, One thing I want to go back to, well, we brought up Easy Anti-Cheat earlier and BattleEye and all these anti-cheat programs. One of the things I liked about this stuff not being supported on Linux is, do we really want to be installing stuff that has root access to our machine? Do we want stuff that has to have kernel level availability, you know, it has ring 0? Like, what?
Okay.
This is not stuff we want to be doing.
Do you know why anti-cheat software actually requires kernel level access?
Yeah, I know. Because it accesses certain parts of kernel to see what the hell you're doing while the app runs, and if it's properly done, that should not work while the application is not running. But some anti-cheats, specifically Vanguard by Riot, which is used in one game only, Valorant, has basically a daemon. Other anti-cheats like Easy Anti-Cheats and BattleEye only run when the game you're playing is running, and that is and why do they need that access to see what processes are running, access to kernel and what processes are running?
Because why couldn't
people actually run separate programs to control the game and make and cheat the game? That is why.
Yeah, I like what you said about having a daemon running. You know, that makes more sense. Have system D take care of all that, right? You don't need...
Actually, that is worse. Sorry, but that is worse. I don't want a daemon. If a program is... because daemon has direct access to everything. If it's running as root, it has direct access to everything. I would rather have a program that is running, it is only running when I need it.
So basically, we should be running games in a container.
Yes and no. Yes, because it would actually be better. No, because containers actually will not make it better, technically, because actually kernel is the same. Underneath kernel is your kernel. That's for sure. That's the thing. When you run a container, it's your kernel. There is no secondary kernel. That's virtualization. And
I might be wrong on this, but theoretically, if you're just running all your Steam games and you're using the Steam native and you're using the Steam libraries, you're basically running in a somewhat container-like environment, but it's more like sandbox and containerized.
Yeah. But if it has access to kernel, it has access to your kernel. The kernel, because it's just using something called kernel namespacing, which basically creates different namespaces, different environments that run on top of your kernel. And like you can get into any namespace from your namespace, the namespace we could call namespace 0, or the main namespace. If you have a privileged, if the container has privileged access, which some containers do, and for the fact that it would use anti-cheat, it will have to have privileged access. You can basically access anything you want from that container. So that is why a lot of us don't like privileged containers.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what I'm gonna do is, well, by the time I can actually afford a GPU, I'm just gonna do what people have been doing for years. A VM, a Windows VM with GPU pass-through.
No, that gets detected, and there is a high level probability you get banned. There's a lot of games.
Anti-cheat software can
Easy Anti-Cheat,
Windows
BattleEye, both detect that you're running in a VM, and both act against you if you are running in a VM.
We've already had a lot of people banned from some of the bigger games for running Windows VMs and from running Wine. You know, back in the day.
Wine is a lot more accepted.
Well, now because of ProTime, but
even before. For example, the biggest case of this of banning people for running in Wine was probably World of Warcraft.
It was Blizzard did it.
Yeah, but
Blizzard.
as soon as it was explained to them what is happening, they actually unbanned those people, and people who play World of Warcraft can play it normally on Linux because they added exception to it, to their anti-cheat system. And how do I know that they can run? Because I do. Yeah. When I play WoW, I run it on Linux. It works just as fine. And actually, a secret, all their servers run on Linux, so that's why they're acceptable of that. There's never created a client for Linux because they see no use of it, because we're 2.9%. We're nothing.
Yeah.
In a grand scheme of things, we are nothing when you look at the numbers.
Yeah, my big problem with the whole giving something kernel access, having root access to your whole machine, basically, is at the end of the day, it's just an anti-cheat. I mean, why are we... I know we don't want people to cheat at a video game.
There are other ways to do it.
Okay.
But it's not the end of the world, right?
So, if you're concerned about this giving root level access because you're trying to play your video games, because you don't like the anti-cheat software, the big thing that I question then is, why are you using the video game anyway? Because 99% of the games that I've seen on Steam are not even open source.
Yeah, most of them aren't. Yeah, but it's still a little different than, you're running proprietary software on your computer. That's one thing. When you're saying, hey, proprietary software, have kernel level access. That's something different.
Yeah.
Right. What chat do you guys use? Chat client,
for the YouTube chat?
Or you talking about like things like Telegram and Discord and things like that?
I'm talking like Jitsi wise, because I downloaded the desktop platform for Jitsi.
There's a chat built into it. If you go to the bottom, you'll see a little like a dialogue icon. It's a little box. It says chat, and you open it up, and there is chat on the side of the window where we can chat with each other. Do know that chat is public because I'm recording, this screen. Unfortunately, the chat doesn't pop out to where I can hide it on a different monitor. It has to be on the Jitsi windows.
I don't think you capture the chat though.
He's talking the Jitsi chat.
Yeah.
I'm talking like the IM client, instant messaging client.
Oh.
Like, do you guys have?
I'm on everything.
Yeah,
not because I want to.
Basically, almost nothing.
I've used just the web address, web interface, and then right now I'm using Jitsi Meet on iPad.
I use Jitsi in browser.
So you guys exclusively use the I'm trying to think of the other chat client you guys are on.
We're on Matrix.
Matrix, yeah.
Matrix.
The Element client is the desktop client, but Matrix is the protocol that it runs on. Yeah, which is an open protocol. It's much better than using something like Telegram or Discord because that's all proprietary on the back end.
Right.
Not that I don't trust Telegram or Discord. It's just, if there's an open alternative, why not go with it?
Yeah, especially because some stuff on Discord is paid.
Yeah.
Also, I gotta admit, Signal is also with the desktop client is a capable and good free and open source option.
Okay. I've never tried. I don't really chat. I've never been one of those people to chat online. But yeah, that's good to know that there's another open source option.
Yeah. Did you know YouTube took down 2 Discord music bots recently?
Yeah.
That's not YouTube doing it because YouTube wanted to do it. That's from I think it's I forget the name of the group specifically, but it's basically the lobbying group behind the recording industry.
Yeah. Just a quick aside. Somebody in the chat was asking, do they need to be a highest tiered patron to join this meeting? No, this meeting is open to anybody that's a patron can go to my Patreon page, and you'll find the room name for this Jitsi chat here. And then just open Jitsi, type in the room name, and you'll be on camera with us. If you want to be on camera, you don't have to have a camera. You also don't have to have a mic. You don't have to speak. If you just want to hang out in the room, that's fine too. If you want to join the conversation, that's okay too. All right, sorry to interrupt there. But the Discord bots on YouTube, YouTube
People are going to
removes
work around it anyway.
Yeah. YouTube removes so many comments now. It's ridiculous.
Well,
Do you know YouTube removes my comments sometimes, which is crazy.
Same here.
Think about that.
technically, YouTube
They
never
removed
removes a
mine.
comment.
I'm a verified content creator. I got the little checkbox, but they're gonna
Technically,
they
YouTube
remove everything
never
I post.
removes a comment from. They just hide it. You can find all the comments they hide in the content creator dashboard.
Well, I used to think that, but here lately, because people will complain to me, "Hey, all of my comments are gone," and I will go to the little tab where the hidden comments where you think that stuff would be, and I don't find this person's comments. And the same thing with some of my comments that disappear. You know, I can't go into the hidden thing and approve my own comments. They're just not there.
Huh.
So I don't know what happens to these comments. I don't know if it's just some weird glitch in YouTube's comment system, but it's become like an epidemic almost. Like so many comments just disappear.
Notes. They might have problems with their notes. Who knows?
Yeah, the algorithms I think have gotten to the point where they're starting to break the law, or they're falling under the law of diminishing returns.
Yeah,
I think we've gotten to the point where they're almost a parody of themselves at this point.
and I hate to be rude, but you know, people often message me or comment on YouTube or in social media, Mastodon and things like that. Hey, my messages on this video were removed. Why'd you delete my messages? And I ignore all of that because I get several a day. Exactly that.
Video about it.
And it's like, hey, if you think I'm sitting, heck, I just mentioned I barely have time to make videos here in this last 2 or 3 weeks because not even being here at the office, I'm out in the middle of the woods. Obviously, I'm not sitting around moderating YouTube comments, right? That's not me.
Right.
And that's probably not the other content creators you guys are complaining to, because I see you guys complaining to other YouTubers. Hey, man, you deleted all. No, they didn't. That's not them.
I've had YouTube hide or delete my own pinned comments before.
Yeah. And then
you have some content creators that don't even look at comments.
Yeah.
They just don't want the hassle of it, at all.
I mean, have you seen the comments on YouTube? I don't blame them.
I don't blame them at all.
It can be a rabbit hole. I try not to, but it can be a rabbit. Maybe the first 10 I might, but then after that I have to cut myself off.
I have a video from 14 years ago that I recorded on an ancient, pre C9 720 Logitech camera using a cheap $5 special microphone that I edited using Kden Live 14 years ago, mind you, which was not a very good experience. People comment on that video still, telling me that the video quality is horrible.
Let's just say I once got a comment that was basically a novel on why they hate me.
Before chat gets out of control here, I would like to remind the chat: let's be nerds, not politicians.
Yeah.
And we got some political discussion.
They're bringing up a little. It's the threads are starting there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it's gotten there yet, but it's starting there.
Basically, yeah, it was a novel on how they hate me, seeing on DT's chats, on other things I sometimes appear. Basically, how they hate me, and how that if they went as far as to say that if they replaced my face with a plant, nobody would know the difference. Because that's how much substance what I say has, and how smart I am. It was a fun thing to read.
Oh, I like those comments when I get them. The ones that are funny, yeah. Heck, I may even put them in an episode of Hey DT. Now, the ones that are just trolling, the ones that are kind of lame and boring, I don't care about. But if you actually make an effort with your insults, yeah, I don't mind. Just put some thought behind it.
They went as far as to say that other people who are DT's Patreons, your Patreons, went and had an internal poll to see to vote me out of having appearing on these chats. Because I'm so my comments are so not appropriate and have no meaning.
I know.
Had a comment be removed.
I know what they're. Hold up, Josh.
Oh.
Josh, I know, Big Pod, what they're talking about. Your inappropriate comments. They're talking about all the Windows talk, right? That's what they're talking about.
No, that everything I say has no meaning, no matter what it is.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Josh.
I've had comments be removed under community guidelines violations where all I did was just tell the content creator, "This is not a Gentoo install video."
Well, I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that do remove comments, because I know at least 3 like big Linux YouTubers right off the top of my head. I know 3 that heavily moderate their comments to where they're deleting most of the stuff that gets posted. And I don't know why they do that, because it's damaging to their channels, their community. But I guess they have really.
The algorithm does actually check the content of the comments too, and the negative comments do actually affect the algorithm, supposedly speaking. But nobody understands the algorithm anyway, so that's all.
Let me tell you a secret. What's the most important secret you need to know? The more engagement there is, better. And comments are engagement. They are
negative comments are not bad. If somebody is complaining about the content of your video, or what you're wearing that day, or your mama is funny looking, or whatever they're saying in the comments, as long as it's not something for me anyway, this is how I deal with it. If they're not attacking somebody else in the comments, I don't care what they say about me. Now, once they start, especially if it gets way out of hand and they're insulting other people in that chat, then they got to go. But I don't care what they say about me.
On your comments, because since I'm a moderator, I have access to deleting comments on your channel. I only ever went as far as to delete the political stuff, because I know that you don't like that.
Well, I mean, and most of it has nothing to do with the content of any of my videos anyway. So why
it goes in politics and politics? That I didn't say delete.
Because I had that the other day. I made a video about something. Something Linuxy related, like almost all of my content. It may have been the F-disk video, and then somebody made some kind of political, and then somebody had to respond to it. And next thing you know, these 2 guys, it's a Twitter-like political argument on a video about partitioning your drive on Linux. I was like, what the hell are you guys doing?
But I bet it still wasn't as long as a discussion on one YouTube video by me and some other guy on rockets. That can get long as hell. That was 150 comments discussing rockets on a YouTube comment. Well, that was a thing. And no matter how many, between 2 people, I don't think there were many longer discussions on YouTube comments than that 150. And those weren't short comments. Those were, if you would put that comment thread into a paper, you'd probably get a proper scientific paper out of it.
Yeah.
It was long paragraphs of discussing physics, rocketry, basically everything like that.
Somebody in the chat, I'm going to respond to a couple of questions. Somebody said, my mama's so fat she can't save files bigger than 4 gigabytes. My mama uses a proper file system that can handle bigger sizes than 4 gigabytes. She's on ZFS, so she's doing just fine.
Don't run ZFS!
On Ubuntu.
Yeah,
ZFS on Ubuntu. That's what my mama's.
No.
ZFS.
No. It needs to be ButterFS.
No, it doesn't.
Not on Ubuntu.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Now we have started the war of the file systems.
Well,
once more.
That said, my operating system doesn't ship either. It still uses XFS because XFS is still a very good file system.
Wait for the next version, then we're gonna have that piece of working technology called.
Well, we're gonna get back to files.
No, they actually will not enable the ButterFS kernel modules. They've actually straight up removed it from Linux.
we're going to get back to some file system talk, I'm sure, later. But one other thing is somebody was asking, hey, DT, have you progressed with Gentoo? I don't run Gentoo on my main production machine. This is Arco Linux. As far as the Gentoo videos I did 2 months ago, I deleted those VMs. I had those VMs, and they were useful. Me and Ben actually used them to troubleshoot some of his problems on Gentoo. But the problem is, I had so many Gentoo VMs, and I started deleting some of them to save disk space on my main production machine. I deleted the wrong ones. I deleted the ones where I'd already compiled the kernel and compiled Xorg, and then I go to open what I thought was Gentoo with Xorg already installed, and it's just the live environment. And it's like, no, please, don't do this to me. I'm not spending 2 days compiling a kernel, compiling Xorg. So, but I've installed Gentoo many times over the years. So I've played around with it in VMs a lot. I've actually played around with it on physical hardware, on test laptops and things. I've never run it as a daily driver for doing stuff like this because it would be inappropriate just because of the compile times. I'd waste a lot of time, and I don't have a lot of time. I'd waste a lot of time compiling. So
set it and forget it.
But I mean, I could run Gentoo. It's not like it's difficult. It's not like I don't like playing with it. I'm probably more comfortable with Gentoo. Like if we talk about all the Linux distributions I've used over the years, I'm most comfortable with Debian and Debian-based distributions because I've used them since the beginning of time. I'm very comfortable with Arch and Arch-based distributions because I started playing with Arch many, many years ago. But I've also started playing with Gentoo many years ago too, to the point where I'm probably more comfortable using Gentoo or Gentoo-based systems than I am RPM-based distributions, for example. Like, I'm more comfortable using something like Gentoo than I am OpenSUSE, if I'm being honest.
People who are comfortable using RPM-based systems are just, let's just say, crazy. They spend way too much time.
Hey.
They like pain.
I'm the one using Red Hat on the desktop here.
Why you hurt yourself?
No.
Please. I know people who run Fedora and are basically in love with Fedora. Understand why?
That's why.
Because the pay.
It's free and open source software. I'll do what I want. It's my GNU given right.
Nowadays, only way I'm gonna run Fedora if I need to run.
No,
I'm not running Fedora.
Or Red Hat or OpenSUSE, whatever.
I understand running Fedora. What I never understood, and now the distributions did, but those people that ran CentOS as a desktop distribution, what the hell is wrong with you? Because there were people doing.
That.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I did it.
I've been running Red Hat on my desktop for about a week now. And honestly, it is just like running a Debian stable desktop system. The difference is that, yes, there are some packages missing for obvious reasons.
Because they're crazy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, since we're on desktop distributions, I did want to bring it up just because since I haven't been following Linux news that closely the last couple of weeks, I did notice the other day that Ubuntu released its beta for 2110, and I wanted to give Big Pod the opportunity to tell us what exactly should we be excited about for Ubuntu 2110, because is it going to be just 2104 with a new wallpaper?
It's going to be 2110, basically. It's an interim. It's a last interim release before the LTS, and in this one, not much will change. I believe in GNOME, there might be GNOME 40 or 41 happening.
I think it's 40.
40, yeah, I believe so.
And I believe this is the first one where I'm gonna make half of the audience mad, of those who don't know.
Oh.
And how the audience will be on my side, but that side that's with me are gonna be actually okay. And
I agree with this change, by the way.
They're gonna change Firefox to be in a snap. They're as far as I know, there are many reasons why this happened, and just some of them are Canonical's reasoning.
Well,
And-
Mozilla
yeah,
actually is the maintainer of Firefox, right? They're maintaining the deb, they're also maintaining the snap, and they want to quit maintaining so many different versions of Firefox, right? It's like they want to just ship the snap. So hey, whatever.
well, as far as I know, Mozilla had distribution rights for Firefox, and actually they need to allow other people to distribute Firefox.
They do, don't they?
So, yeah, as far as I know, they
Is
do
that part of
allow-
the license, the MPL?
I believe yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Oh.
Canonical had the right to distribute Firefox.
Okay.
So, right now, as far as I know, this could all be, that's what I heard. The distribution rights contract to allow distribution by Canonical has ended.
Well,
And
my
Mozilla
problem-
said that they want to distribute through one source for everybody, and that would be Snaps.
the reason I don't get angry about stuff like this is because this is one of those instances, and I say this oftentimes, not just in Linux, but in life in general. Never get upset about something that you don't have to subject yourself to anyway.
Yeah.
If you don't like the fact that Firefox is a snap because for whatever reason you don't want to run any snaps on your system, why are you installing Ubuntu?
Exactly.
Why are you just install a different distro? It's not like there's not
Well,
300 different distributions on
First
DistroWatch
of all,
right
that.
now.
Second of all, why tell me why you're so upset with snaps. They're no different than normal packages, except that they are actually better, more secure, and yes, they have certain drawbacks, but so do native packages. Native packages have drawbacks like they are basically not secure.
Yeah.
While snaps are, as I said. But yes, snaps
Well,
have a first startup time that is slightly slower than.
Yeah, but it's a browser. It's a browser. It's going to be slow no matter what
That's
you do.
why
It's gonna be
That-
slow
that-
and it's gonna be insecure.
Okay.
You should put it in a container environment. So
If
for
you're going to
browsers,
be
that's
launching
great.
a web browser and you're going to be complaining about the boot times for the browser itself, you need to compile it from source using a merge. And just install it in Gentoo and take 3 hours to do it because it's 3 hours for Firefox and it's 9 hours for Chromium.
no matter where you compile it, it's long.
Damn.
But but the reality is, browsers by themselves are a security nightmare. That's why a lot of companies just disable internet.
And if you don't want to run the Firefox Snap, guess what? Firefox also has a Flatpak, and they also have an app image.
If
People
if
hate
you're
those,
running Ubuntu and you need to run, you want to run Firefox, there still exists Firefox ESR, the extended support release, which
that's
is
right.
in a PPA for now.
Mhm.
You can
And-
even run Firefox in a web browser.
Yes, technically yes.
the issue that I had with Snaps was compatibility with data sharing across apps that have a browser like
Flatpak
say,
also
browser
has that issue.
integrations and stuff like that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
That is
But-
the
but
problem.
the
It's
reason
again
Yeah.
that part you cannot have security at the same time as basically allowing everything. You need to have
right,
certain.
exactly.
Yeah. And that's not a snap.
boundaries.
That's not a snap problem. That's all these
That's the
containers.
containerization
Yeah, that's
problem.
right. Yeah, that's
And
But because
yes,
Ubuntu uses Snaps, you have that problem on Ubuntu.
yes,
Yeah.
but then again,
You need to install your
it's
snaps
always
correctly then.
that good thing to have access, but for your browser to basically open arbitrary executables, open arbitrary things.
Right.
Is it a good thing? I would say probably
Well-
not. It's easy, yes, but browser is basically the only line of defense between you and what is essentially horribleness of internet.
What I don't like though is I don't like the what I call protest people. Kind of like I don't like the protest distros like Dev1 and Artix and Mint and I guess Mint's kind of evolved beyond that, but back in the day, Mint forked from Ubuntu because they didn't like GNOME 3, which Ubuntu didn't develop GNOME 3. That's just GNOME moved from 2 to 3, but they blame Ubuntu for it. So they fork and create Mint and create Mate and Cinnamon, and then they talk so bad about how Ubuntu's a horrible distribution and Mint's better for normal people, even though they're basing off of Ubuntu. It made no sense, right? It's the same thing with. Yeah, it's the same thing with these people that complain about Snap and Flatpak and App Image. Like, guys, you don't have to use it, but you don't have to trash the people that do use it or the people that develop it. Because do I use Snaps on occasion? But I do it mainly just to test things out. I really don't run Snaps or Flatpaks on my Arch machine because everything's in the AUR anyway. But I don't trash those technologies. I wouldn't trash a distribution that defaults to using those technologies either.
Well, my issue is that can I find my data? Where is my user data, and can I move it from one thing to another? That's all I really care about with these snaps. I mean, besides security, I mean that's a bonus. But if it's hidden in some deep folder when I expect it to be in somewhere else because I've been using this other, install.
That isn't Snap's issue. That's actually maintainer issue. Let's be clear, that's a maintainer issue because they don't set it up correctly. Right. I have snaps. I made a few snaps. I can go through data normally. I can see data in their normal places because I took the time to set it up properly. Yes, it has certain difficulties because of the containerization, but you're trying to get your app to run on that, and why is it so hard to take a look at the documentation? Ironically, those people that are just fine writing their packages, which are, let's just say, 1,000,000 times harder to make than snaps.
I would agree with that. I would. Yeah. Right? Like snaps are easier, right?
I'm Debian packager. Yeah. The Debian packages are horrible. I hate them.
Yeah.
But I'm Debian packager.
Yeah, I was actually about to bring up
I'm not Debian packager. I'm packager for Ubuntu Mate, but I also sometimes work in Debian. I'm working Debian.
Well, sometimes you just gotta complain to somebody upstream.
Well, no, this won't work because they're in love with their packaging method, and I would love it to be at least a tiny bit similar to how every other packaging method works on Linux.
I mean, you can't really complain to Canonical because they're all about snaps, and you can't complain to Mozilla either if they've made the decision to snap Firefox. What are you going to say? No, don't snap it.
You can actually tell them your own opinion, but how many will?
They're not going to listen to you, right?
Yeah.
The big benefit to snapped Flatpaks and even app images in this regard is that it's one package format that the package create or that the developer actually really just needs to compile.
Yeah.
So rather than they can compile for the snap, whereas it used to be that they had to compile the tarball for Slackware, the Debian package, the RPM, the package build for Arch Linux, whatever the format they use anymore.
But the problems, and I'll play devil's advocate for this one thing about snaps. The system D dependency is, which it's no big deal if you're only worried about Ubuntu, but the idea that you snap something for everybody.
Okay.
I can make it work without systemd, actually, not a problem. You can make it work without systemd. It's just that it requires, for certain features, you must have systemd because that's what it's been targeted, made for, specifically for stuff like Nextcloud, stuff like MicroKTS, and LXD, which are services. But then again, snapd is open source. You can make it run whatever you want. It isn't like
it's just what it connects to. That's not open source. Yeah.
Just server that writes. And guess what? If I had a day that I wanted to waste, I could make my own Snap backend server in like 12 hours tops. It isn't hard since you have snapd open source. You can see every endpoint it tries to hit.
Really, the app image launcher actually uses systemd more than Snap does.
Well, that's a problem. with App Image Launcher. Flatpak had a hard dependency on systemd. I think they've gotten rid of it, but I don't.
Yeah, they've gotten rid of it.
I don't know how that works on non-system. I don't typically do a lot of Flatpaks.
Well, the Flatpak thing is that it uses systemd hooks purely just for like the service files and timers. So it actually used it for checking when Flatpak updates were available, and then they decided, oh, you know what, we'll just bake that into like GNOME software instead.
Yeah, the App Image Launcher, of course, is using daemons, and they're starting it all with systemd. So that, but technically, you could do that with any init system, I guess, just for simplicity. They're just coding it so it works with systemd.
So you don't have spaghetti code, basically.
Right, exactly.
Implementation for. So you can use, so 99% of your users will use one option.
Right. I mean, run it and OpenRC and these other things exist, but nobody uses them, right?
Yeah.
That said, app images work perfectly fine without the app image launcher, so it's not really that big of a problem. But it is something that I found out when on my previous Gentoo installation, when I realized, the app image launcher requires systemd. Like, well, that's a shame.
Yeah, somebody was asking about why so much hate for snaps. This is just a problem with people in general and people with change. It's got nothing to do necessarily with snaps. In particular, people hate change. People hate systemd because they're used to sys5 init, right, from back in the day, and it broke all.
Change the paradigm how you make a daemon definition.
Right. People hated Pulse Audio because we moved from ALSA to Pulse Audio, although I understand with my Pulse Audio problems today why people might hate Pulse Audio for other reasons. Yeah. But people hate change. That's all that is.
People who hate Pulse Audio because it's not because it replaced ALSA, they need to understand that ALSA is still involved. It's not directly used.
I mean, you can strip all that away and still use OSS, which was the what was that? The open sound system or whatever the heck that stands for. It was horrible.
Nicest gifts to us all. OSS.
With snapd or snaps, the only thing that basically systemd service does is that it first of all checks for updates, so that can be removed if you actually know what they're doing, and second thing is that actually controls the containerization, so that needs to stay there because it is controlled by a daemon. But there is also a part of it. It allows for certain daemons to run as a part of systemd, so a snapd. So, for example, Nextcloud needs to have a web server always running. So that is controlled by snap. You have snap commands, but those snap commands are actually just basically systemd commands. That's why it requires systemd.
And people get mad at me because I've done 1 or 2 videos about Nextcloud, how to set up your own Nextcloud, and I always install the snap on an Ubuntu server. And why do I do that? It's because it's one command, right? Installing the entire LAMP stack and everything is one command.
Easier than installing it by hand.
Right. I can set up a LAMP stack. I've done it a million times. Like I've done a lot of web servers. But if I can sudo snap install Nextcloud and have everything just working, Apache and everything, why wouldn't I do that?
Now I'm gonna tell you another thing. Everyone in server community, they don't actually care.
Why would they? They just want something that works.
We run programs. Most of the programs nowadays, especially the new stacks, everything is Docker.
Right.
Look, I nowadays I haven't actually on a real hardware set up any kind of web server. I haven't in about year. Everything was in a Docker container, and everyone I know, if there is anything new, they will put it in a Docker container. Or even better, they will put it on a Kubernetes cluster, which is in the backend Docker containers, or more specifically OCI containers. But okay, that's another topic for another day.
Somebody in the chat was asking, we had some Gentoo talk, actually a bunch of Gentoo talk. Somebody was asking about, is there a graphical installer for Gentoo? I don't know about Gentoo proper, but there's many Gentoo-based distributions that use the Calamares installer. Redcore is one, Sabian is one. Calculate Linux doesn't use the Calamares installer. They use a different installer, but All three of those are pretty much 100% Gentoo compatible. They just give you an easy graphical installer to get started with. And some of them actually have have systemd as their init system rather than OpenRC. So that could be a benefit for those that don't want OpenRC on Gentoo, because the documentation on how to install systemd in Gentoo isn't great. So Sabian, I know, uses systemd by default, and I think Redcore may as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. You'd have to check.
That's possible. I mean, it's understandable that the Gentoo project doesn't want to push systemd anyway, since they're the ones that actually created and maintain OpenRC.
Now, somebody's asking, WTF, what is a Docker? It's a container. You can think of it similar to snapping something where you've got everything you need for... Yeah, go ahead.
Docker is actually a set of programs that are specifically a brand of programs that allow containerization using the kernel namespaces, which is what I talked about a bit earlier with snaps.
Yeah.
It's using those kernel namespaces to basically wrangle different containers in separate namespaces, and that's just one of the brands of state containers. So you can actually have different ones. For example, Fedora and RHEL based systems nowadays push something called, I can't remember it now. Podman, yeah. It's basically the same thing, just different name. All of them use what is known as OCI containers, which is what is the official non-branded name for containerization technologies, based on that type. All of them.
Well, without
kernel namespaces.
Without getting into the technical details, probably what he's asking is what's the point of something like Docker? It makes installing some things that are complicated a lot easier when they're right.
A lot.
Yes, it's mostly server stuff, because I have actually tried moving all my stuff away from Docker containers to bare metal, and when I found out that I had to support 3 different versions of PHP, I immediately learned exactly why Docker was created.
And each Docker container is basically its own environment. You can have on your let's say Ubuntu server, you can have Fedora container, Arch container, Gentoo container, and all of them run just on your kernel. That's the thing that they hold together. Then each of them have their own root FS. So basically, that's your root. Each have their own root,
which makes it more secure.
Amazing. It's more secure unless they're privileged containers. Then you're basically the same. But if it's not a root container, a privileged container, you have each of them are like separate. They can't see each other. Only from your main namespace you can really see them. Unless the daemon you're running, you push the daemon into that container. That's another question entirely. Yeah. There are a lot of things that can make your containers a bit less safe, but standardly they are really safe and pretty good especially for server use.
One other bit of Ubuntu news I wanted to mention, other than the beta of 2110, is Canonical has decided to extend support for 1404 and 1604 to 10 years, which I kind of thought they might do at some point, because there's still millions of machines out there that are still running 1404. Like, people don't realize how long some of these servers, they get set up, nobody touches them. Yeah. You know, and technically,
you have security nightmare.
Right.
Security nightmare.
Yeah.
That's why Docker is really nice, because you can update the underlying software stack however much you want. Data will still exist, and container, you just load up another container on top of the data and you're done.
So if you're still running trusty tar or whatever that version, I'd have to look it up. You're good.
Was trusty tar.
Trusty was the LTS. Yeah.
And
good afternoon.
Hello. Hey, is that Mark?
Yeah,
it sounds like Mark.
DT. It's been a while since I was a Patreon.
Hey, Mark. Do me a favor. Turn down the gain on your mic a little bit. You're a little distorted. You're a little hot.
That's fine. Let me do
Hey,
that.
Derek.
Just back it up a little bit. We got Ben. Did Ben disappear on us?
It was just on my tower and it wasn't picking up my microphone, so I had to go on my phone.
I saw you have to leave and drop back out. Is there two of you now? No, there's just one.
Yeah.
You switched places on my screen though.
Yeah, sorry. I turned my cam on my iPhone off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pipe wire is
That actually-
phenomenal when it works.
That's actually what happened to me earlier when you saw the two of me. Was
They had
the app
you dropped out and had to rejoin.
Yeah, because the app needed permission to access the camera.
Man.
And that was on iPhone or iOS.
Yeah. Derek, I need to ask you something. So I tried to push my latest changes to my StormOS repo to GitHub, and it's acting stupid because I'm still using the password method on my repo and Silent Robot. I cloned some of his scripts to do that or forked them, whatever. And for some reason, when I run those scripts, they're still using the password authentication method, and I'm struggling to try and fix that. And I was wondering if you could take some time out to help me fix that at some point.
What is it, GitHub or GitLab?
Hub, big pod.
You're gonna need if you want to use password authentication method, you need to use something called personal access tokens. You can get them in
I looked at
developer.
I looked at the all I'm doing is hosting AUR packages in a repo for my system
It doesn't matter.
for my distro, and this never was a problem until a month ago.
Yes,
and,
yes. Because a month ago they disabled standard password authentication for GitHub. You need to use personal access tokens or use
SSH keys.
Yeah, I tried setting up an SSH key on my system and copying it into GitHub, and for some reason it didn't fix the issue. So I'm kind of
replace URL with the SSH-based URL.
Yeah, I'm not.
I recommend you create a personal access token and save it somewhere and just copy it in. That's what I did.
I'm not sure how to do that, man.
You go into your account settings for GitHub.
Yeah. GitHub.com prefix 23. Yeah, give me just a second. Okay. So I see my repo, which is called StormOS.
Go to your account settings. So you click on your own.
Yeah, I'm in my account settings right now. Yeah.
Now you go to the bottom. The fourth link from bottom up is developer settings.
Let me see. Dev settings. Okay. Found it.
Now you have the last option is personal access tokens.
Yeah, I see that.
Generate new one. You enter your password.
Generate new token is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me type in Mike.
I'm glad Big Pod was here because I don't have a GitHub account. So
on
GitLab, all I do is just I use SSH keys. I never fool with passwords.
Okay.
It's annoying.
No, it's asking me for.
I host my own Git server.
Window.
I see.
You type in some name for it, then select how long it takes for it to expire.
Yeah.
And then
I'm gonna give it no expiration date.
You can do that. Then you have select scopes. You just need to have ticked repo, so it will have everything there.
Just repo, yeah.
And then just generate token. But now watch out. The code that opens like the GHP _ something.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
That you need to copy and save something, because the moment you will close this web page, it will
expire.
GitHub forgets what it is. It actually saves a copy of it, and that's it. Copy of it in a cached form, but you can create millions of them if you want. I just create 7-day expiration date versions of them, and just every time I need a new one, I just create a new one.
Okay, thank you.
That's all right.
Yeah, we got that solved. But yeah,
good deal.
I was in the midst of installing Gentoo, but I haven't pushed.
I figured that.
Yeah, but the problem is, I have this A+ test coming up on Friday because I'm planning to become computer certified to help people and stuff.
Nice.
And the problem is that the test covers Windows, Mac, and Linux, and I'm like, well, in that regard, I don't know that I should be running Gentoo to be in that kind of a scenario. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, that for a long-term solution doesn't seem like a good idea. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, Big Bot will probably tell you this too. Why not just keep a VM of Ubuntu server around, the LTS?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
The best idea you can have, if you want to switch around, just to have a separate partition for VM images, you can have same VM for everything. I even have a same VM of Windows that I play with. And
No,
I have a
point.
VM of the. I have a VM mirror of my desktop.
Why?
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Big Pod, when you play around with the things that I play around, it's nice to be able to do it in a VM first.
I have about 10 VMs of Ubuntu Mate.
Yeah,
because they're all broken.
That's crazy. But yeah,
we got one other big news story I did want to just briefly mention, because this is not big, I guess, for some people, but for Linux nerds, which most of us qualify, the GNU Coreutils version 9.0 was released about a week ago.
And that's the Coreutils package, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's all your, LS and CP and chmod, all your basic GNU utils. Yeah.
Did they get smaller?
Did they get smaller? No, but most of them got modernized a little bit.
Yay.
For example, I noticed that the WC command, one of the biggest changes was WC now uses AVX2 instructions to count characters and lines and things, which most modern processors support that. Anything just built. Yeah. So it makes sense. If it doesn't though, WC will still work. It just defaults to the old method it used to count. So. And there were some other improvements. Checksum also included some performance improvements as far as the speed. I saw that LS got a couple of new flags. Let me see if I can find the release notes.
LS always gets new flags.
But LS now has the flag -- sort equals width, meaning you can sort by the width of the directory or file name, which is really cool. So depending on the length of the file name, it gets sorted that way. I don't know how often I would use something like that, but that's an interesting feature.
Well, having played with massive file systems of people who just populate it and grow it over time and do not care about stuff, I am actually looking forward to such features, because playing with awk is nice, but I had a look at them as well, and it's good to have.
One of the problems with
people who just throw things onto a drive, don't look at files or folders or something like that. Those people used macOS before.
Yes, I agree.
Because macOS Finder is a horrible mess. Thank God I don't use macOS, because that thing is horrible. And only reason I know, because everybody complains about it, and that's why they have million external drives, so they can actually put stuff into it.
Goosebumps of crime and fear.
LS also has a -- flag, meaning the output no longer adds a new line after every line. So instead of having everything return on its own line, you get one long string, which could be interesting if you're scripting. But generally in scripting, you try to avoid using LS in scripts because LS is kind of flaky. And so many people alias LS to other things, but you generally don't want to use LS in your scripts.
Well, if you need to know what files are in there, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the GNU find command is typically how you do that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know everybody was excited about the Coreutils getting a big release, so
I was super excited. I'll be installing them in 2 years.
I'm just waiting.
Actually, no, it's 3 years.
3 years between updates for that dang thing? Holy cow.
It's basically how the RHEL ecosystem works. They're going to be targeting major releases, so I won't see it until RHEL 10, which the current release version is 8, which came out last year.
Yeah. Well, the Debian stable users will see this in Somewhere near 2030, probably.
Yeah.
2030? Yeah, that's about right for Debian.
I guess. My guess.
I would actually say that's Slackware, not stable. Debian stable is actually a little bit newer than Slackware is. Depending if somebody in Slackware actually cares.
Slackware just found out KD has a 5th version. They just found out that.
They're not using KDE 4.2 still?
They just added KDE 5.
Oh, they're on 4.4. You know, 4.2. I was thinking of a different distribution that's on 4.2.
They just added Plasma support. So yeah.
Hannah Montana is on 4.2. Yeah.
Hannah Montana.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. The worst version of KDE ever released, KDE 4.2, and that's what Hannah Montana went with. It's just great.
The sad part is, I actually know somebody that actually prefers KDE 4.
Uh-oh, we got some echo. Now, everybody make sure they've got headphones or earbuds in, because otherwise we're going to get some feedback from your computer speakers into your microphone.
Josh, who prefers KDE 4?
It's an old friend of mine, the guy that initially built my first computer and started me with Linux. Started, not switch. Started.
You on that?
And he still runs KDE 4 on a Debian 6 system.
What the frick? How does he get that up to date, for crying out loud?
It's called he lives 100% offline. That's how.
Holy crap, man!
Yeah.
Hey guys, we got another support kind of question here, which I'm sure is easy to answer, but I don't use Wayland because I do all of this video content stuff, and Wayland
Wayland.
Is there an X-kill command for Wayland?
That's a good ass question.
Yeah.
I
actually don't think there is right now.
Yeah.
No, because Wayland is still in its very much infancy, as far as I know.
Well, the way Wayland works is Wayland says that's.
Oh, hold up.
Hold on,
I have a good news for those who want to use Wayland in future with NVIDIA graphics cards.
Yeah.
In couple of releases, I don't know how much, maybe even the next one, Wayland support will be NVIDIA drivers. Yay!
Wow, that only took 12 years.
Yes.
Well, that's.
And NVIDIA decided they're gonna do it.
Oh.
Well, yeah. Anyways, the thing with X-kill is that X-kill is baked into Xorg itself, which creates the X protocol, and that's how our window managers actually operate. Wayland is just the protocol. It doesn't ship any utilities besides the protocol. So in the world of Wayland, it's literally on the compositor. It's on the compositor to actually create your X-kill for you.
Now, X-kill, as far as I know of, is not part of the X server. It's a separate package, but it's
no, but it does use the X server, so it's not really part of it.
It's in that made by X guys.
Right.
Wayland is much more bare bones thing.
Yeah, because you can uninstall X-kill on your computer if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, because it's useful when you need it.
Yeah. Wayland is so bare bones that you don't even have APIs to record your screen on it.
Wayland is so bare bones, it literally gives me an extra hour of battery life on my laptop.
Yeah, but also that happens. But it's so bare bones you don't even have an API with which, for example, OBS can hook up to, so you can actually record your screen or record a window. That was supposed to be done by a compositor, but guess what?
Yep.
There are a million compositors.
The only compositor that's actually implemented it has been GNOME, and so after a while OBS is just like, we'll just use the GNOME thing.
And then they decided to actually implement its own thing inside, and now they have it.
Yeah. Well, that
works.
That was about all of the news for the last couple of weeks. It's been kind of slow for Linux news. One thing I did want to ask, since I haven't talked to Mark in a while, he joined us for this chat. Mark, what are you running these days as far as Linux distribution or whatever operating system you happen to be working on?
Fedora. I'm getting ready to switch, eventually.
Mhm.
and I don't want to have to do the work, I'm probably going to put a script together to install all my apps. I've been running Fedora Cinnamon for a while, and I was running Fedora with GNOME before, and I love it. It's a little buggy at times here lately, but
My
I
condolences.
think they've worked it out for the most part.
How is? I've never been. I don't particularly care for the Cinnamon desktop environment. It's not for me.
Yeah.
But how is that on a non-Mint distribution? Because everybody that runs Cinnamon typically runs Mint. So I always wonder when I hear people say they're running Mint or a Cinnamon on something else.
It works beautifully for the most part. Honestly, it's very stable. I've not really had much issue with Mint or any at all. I've had issue with Pipewire from time to time where it'll change the mic gain, and I haven't even touched it.
Oh, you should have been here at the beginning of this stream with me and Pulse Audio. I'm still fighting it. I have Pavu control open and things are moving.
Yeah, it's crazy.
on their own. I'm watching sliders just move on their own, and I keep putting them back.
I can hazard a guess why Pipewire has problems. because it has a component that pretends it's Pulse, so it needs to also pretend it has problems like Pulse.
Yeah.
You had mentioned something about Mint in midstream, and I was trying to wake up. I slept in today.
Well, the Mint guys develop Cinnamon, so it seems like everybody that uses Cinnamon uses Mint. Yeah. So I was just
That's not what I was.
He was talking earlier when we were talking about when we were talking about the Ubuntu, and you made a comment about how Mint wasn't a protest.
He said Mint doesn't do anything newer. I disagree with that.
Oh, I didn't mention anything about them not doing anything new. I was just talking about, in the early days they were. They didn't like what Ubuntu was doing, so they, forked it and did their own thing. Well, obviously, they do new stuff. I mean, they have their own desktop environments, Mate and Cinnamon.
I feel like Mint is better for a new user than Ubuntu. Sorry, go ahead, Big Pot.
Mate has no direct connection with Mint, except that they make a Mint. They make a Mate version.
They might accidentally share a library, but that's about it.
Yeah, they did make something that Ubuntu Mate uses as a base, but that's it.
Well, I was talking about, again, the beginning of Mint, right? So at the very beginning, some people forked GNOME 2 and created Mate, and that really kind of became Mint's main desktop environment until they created Cinnamon.
Until they went and forked GNOME 3.
Right.
Cinnamon.
So they actually had two forks of GNOME, which was kind of weird, but
it makes sense that Mint eventually forked GNOME 3, because if I remember right, like Mint for the longest there actually did ship GNOME 3 with like 500,000 extensions. So kind of like what Ubuntu is doing nowadays.
Yes.
But it kept breaking on them, so they had to do that.
Yeah, so they just gave up and just forked GNOME, and honestly, I think Cinnamon, that was a better decision for Cinnamon to do, and honestly, that's something I'm looking for like System 76 to do eventually with Pop OS.
Well, I don't know if anybody
saw it. I'd be wonderful if they would adopt that.
Yeah.
There was one more news item that's kind of happened in the last couple of weeks that I don't know what was talked about because I came a little bit late, was Budgie is actually looking to change from using GNOME to EFL libraries. I don't know.
Wow, I had not heard about that, but that is really interesting.
The Budgie developers are moving to Enlightenment.
Yeah. Joshua Strobel actually had some tweets on that. I know you're not on Twitter, DT, but that was something that started a little pocket of conversation.
Well, it's interesting because everybody always talks about GTK and QT. It's interesting that they're going with EFL. Like that's really really strange. But I like it. I like moves I like bold moves.
I kind of like it too.
It's still under development. It's not like it's gone away. But as far as I think it makes things interesting.
Right.
But to kind of go back a little bit, the only time I'll use Cinnamon anymore is on Fedora. I don't use Linux Mint anymore. I've kind of moved off from that, away from that for a few years now. But the only time I ever find myself using Cinnamon is on Fedora.
Wow, the dog has chewed holes in both shoulders. I just noticed the other one.
Well, this week I found out something. That Mir still exists.
Yes, Mir does still exist.
In Wayland, right?
Yes.
And it's still maintained.
Yes, and I heard that Ubuntu, or not Ubuntu Mate, but Mate in general, will use Mir for Wayland compositor.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Yep.
Somebody's actually using Mir besides Ubuntu Touch. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, we will. We will.
Yeah.
I might actually install Mate now.
Mir's been part of Wayland for a long time
Mir
now,
has
actually.
been, for a long time a Wayland compositor.
I think I'm in Wayland. I'm probably not with Cinnamon.
No, unless you're running GNOME or Plasma, you're probably not.
GNOME or Plasma or Sway.
Sway.
Yeah, that
Or
would be.
maybe you're running Vesson, the reference compositor for Wayland.
Yeah, I know I'm running XOR because I'm streaming an OBS on YouTube right now. That's how I know.
I know. I'm not running.
I'm running
Wayland. Running either, or actually, technically, I'm running Wayland. Actually, in a VM, and that VM then streams my browser to a non Linux based desktop.
I mentioned earlier I just signed up with a company called Ace Cloud Hosting. I'm a bit of a minimalist, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to run Linux on like a single board computer, like a Raspberry Pi, and just have a super lightweight distro to where I can basically watch videos while I work, and every bit of my work will be in the cloud for my MSP stuff. So,
now, one thing I would suggest if you're going to do a Raspberry Pi, think about power consumption with a big desktop environment. So you might want to go to something a bit more minimal.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Something very lightweight is.
Yeah, you want to be as light as possible because you're only got so much CPU and RAM in that thing.
Which is really all I need.
Buy the 8 gig version.
If I'm running a featherweight distro, it's all I need. You know, it's all I want.
Here is a Pi 4 with the 8 gigs.
I've got 2 of them sitting right here on my desk in these. Well, you can't see these boxes here.
It took me 3 days, but I installed Gentoo on this.
Is that a Pi or is that a little?
This is a Pi. I just got it in a case.
So you don't want to install a source-based distribution on a Raspberry Pi.
Hold on. There's a method to my madness here. Since installing Gentoo, I've actually found out that I can actually use this Pi as a daily driver.
How? It never stops. It's constantly updating. It probably never stops compiling.
Actually, if you run Gentoo stable, you don't get updates all the time.
Yeah.
It actually updates about as often as Debian does.
Mark, if you're going to buy a proper cooler for it, the proper case with a cooler, and overclock the CPU.
And put a fan on it, definitely.
Yeah, fan and a proper case, and overclock it. You're gonna have almost proper desktop experience.
Yeah.
I'm running Manjaro with Qtile on my Pi 4, and that's okay. I've had no issues with that. Manjaro with their XFCE desktop, which is their standard. XFCE actually runs rather nice on the Pi. It's not too bad.
Yeah, I have the XFCE Manjaro behind me.
Holy cow!
Perfect timing.
I might run LXQT or OpenBox, maybe like a.
Yeah.
I might do like a Crunchbang ++ or Arch Labs. That'd be super cool to have a.
To add to my pain, I'm running Bonestock DWM on my Pi because I haven't taken time to patch it yet.
Yeah, I don't know how DWM plays on ARM. Does it compile correctly?
Yeah, it compiles perfectly fine. Yeah.
I have 965 megs of Arch updates to download.
Yeah, there are DWM does not use any x86 instructions, so it's perfectly portable
Okay.
to basically anything that GCC runs on. Yeah.
I did compile ST and dmenu on my Pi, but I didn't bother with DWM because I found Qtile in the repos. I just went with it. So.
Yeah.
Xmonad is not in the Manjaro ARM repos though. So
Yeah. That said, if you don't want to compile Gentoo, there is a very, very awesome project up on GitHub where you can actually compiles Gentoo for Raspberry Pis for you daily. So all you have to do is just pull your SD card out and just reflash it.
Yeah, that's what I would. If we go that crazy route, I would make myself an image, and I would then just copy out.
Hey, Big Pod, challenge accepted.
Big Pot said, yeah, if he was crazy, he'd do it that way, but he...
So I'm not crazy. So I'm gonna just install Ubuntu on it.
I run RHEL on my desktop and I run Gentoo on my Pi.
Yeah.
That is crazy, Josh. You're a sadist.
You know you're probably on some list of crazy people that need to be picked up.
I know I'm on the...
I have a nutball for a friend now.
I know I'm not allowed on a plane.
YouTube keeps a list of these kinds of people, Big Pod. They're the ones that eventually get deleted.
I'm actually working on flashing Libre firmware on my Canon camera too.
Dude, what the hell?
Don't do that.
It's an old camera I picked up out of a yard sale for $50, so it's just like, yeah, I'll do this.
Yeah, but if you brick it, what are you going to do with the camera? You just going to throw away $50?
Yeah.
He's going to have a horrible afternoon.
I threw away $50 last week earlier this week because a small YouTuber named Zany said if somebody pays me $50, I will install Plan 9 and use it for a week. So I gave him $50.
Beautiful.
That sounds cool.
He must have been drunk that day because
no,
you don't put such a low number on something like that because there's always that crazy person that.
And just remember, it's $224 per month to get the Linux cast to do another Gentoo install. He's at 74 of 300.
Yeah. You guys that have Linux channels, I've said this many times because I've done a few Gentoo install videos over the years. I've never done one live. There's a reason I have never done one live.
I've done one live.
I actually wanted to do one live, but then my network was in shambles that day, so
The main reason I don't do them live, it's horrible content. Watching, compiling.
Yeah.
The second reason I don't do it.
Talk about.
The second reason I don't do it live is because typically you're going to do it in a VM. So you've got your main production machine that's using all its CPU to stream. And now you're taking away some of that CPU to compile, and it takes even longer.
I had a second PC for that.
Okay,
you have to.
When you're installing Gentoo,
SSH into another machine. That's how you do it.
SSH into it. That's what I do.
Yep.
Because if you're going to be running a stream, that you're going to be looking at terminal output anyway. So it's just like, why don't you just SSH?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a valid point.
That said, I have streamed installing Gentoo. It took me 8 hours, but I installed from base all the way to GUI.
But to be fair,
I want to go and basically 24-hour stream installing Gentoo, and when you're in the big compiling, I would just queue all the compiling up and lay down and sleep.
Yeah, I just put everything in the world command and I just go to bed for the night. That's typically what I do.
And the people that ask about Plan 9, I've never understood them because nobody uses it, even the people that are asking about it. They ask other people about it because they want to see the pain inflicted on these people. That's all they're asking.
There are so many people that advocate for Plan 9 that if they actually put their efforts into maintaining Plan 9, Plan 9 would actually probably be just about every bit as good as the Coreutils.
No, it's never going to be as good as the. Come on, there's way too many people that work on the Coreutils for Plan 9's never going to be that popular.
You're not in the same circles that I'm in, then.
The people that hang out on the internet and claim they're proponents of Plan 9, they're trolling, most of them.
I just remember something before when we talked about gaming on Linux and the Steam Deck and all that. I just remembered that soon we're gonna have 2 more gamers on Linux.
Yeah.
Apparently, there is a plan by Linus Sebastian from Linus Tech Tips and his friend Luc
Anthony?
Lafreniere.
That's right.
They planned it on Vanishow that they're gonna have a Linux, basically a competition between them who can last longer playing games on Linux. Basically, just use Linux for gaming. And
I think Linus is actually more likely to last longer than Luke is.
I actually think Luke, because he actually used Linux before for gaming.
Is Anthony going to help them?
No.
Because if Anthony sets them up,
Anthony helping them. Luke actually knows a lot about Linux.
Linus Tech Tips ace in the hole is Anthony. If it wasn't for Anthony, well, all they would have is Linus, and not much.
So
if they didn't have Anthony, they would still have a very terrible tech quickie video.
No. I will tell you, this all depends on distro choice. If they install something like Manjaro, which has good drivers and graphics, kernel,
they have enough problems in the window.
But if they install some weird distribution that's old and crusty,
they won't.
Yeah, I would hope not.
I would say that Luke is probably going to install Pop! OS, and Linus will probably. If Linus doesn't use Pop! OS, he's probably going to use Manjaro with the Plasma desktop.
Yeah, those would be good choices.
I think if Luke will install something, I think Luke will install something a lot more crazy than Linus. That's what I think, because
it would be funny if Luke installs Gentoo.
No, not that. But Luke might go Ubuntu, which is for gaming a lot more crazy option than Manjaro or Pop! OS.
Not. I would say that's not exactly unreasonable, though.
Yeah, it's not exactly, but it's quite unreasonable.
Well, I tried to launch Stellaris on Arch, and it's been an interesting ride, so to speak. With a dual monitor setup, I wasn't able to launch that game on the proper monitor. I tried for an entire afternoon. There are so many layers in between for these launchers that every game requires some underlying virtualization that makes it impossible to intervene and actually configure it on how you'd like it. I don't know what to do there.
Every game for me launches on the wrong monitor.
Yeah.
That's a thing. I have to go to settings to move it to the right monitor. That's a thing. That's a Linux problem in entirety.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I know Proton is a thing, and I know like you have Lucius and stuff too, but you're absolutely correct. With certain games, especially sports titles, I have a golf game that I play. I know that's boring to most everybody but me, but it's a PGA Tour game, and I literally keep my Windows installed for the 5 minutes of free time that I might get to play 9 holes. I just keep it installed on the separate, completely separate drive in the same system.
The best golf game ever was the golf game on the Wii, with the one where you actually had to physical
golf.
Yes, that thing was great.
Yeah, if you want to go down like a real deep rabbit hole, you should check out the speedrunners for Wii Sports Resort. There's
I have 13 mini golf courses I can go to if I want to play golf.
That's cool.
I also liked bowling on the Wii, 10-pin bowling. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was actually fun.
Yeah.
The golfing thing aggravated me because it's not.
I found out with the bowling, by the way, I tend to bowl better when I toss a remote over my head rather than under.
You can cheat the way you can just you know.
You can cheat it.
Real quick.
That was a good one for me.
Yeah, I actually took a bowling class in college for a PE credit one time.
That's fun.
I did golf.
I love bowling.
Yeah, I do too. That's why I took the class.
I played in the league in the last 15 years. It was fun.
Yeah, DT, you should contact Linus and let him know about Garuda Linux. Linus probably shouldn't use Garuda because it does so many different things. Well, I mean, it uses ButterFS and the Linux Zen kernel, which is fine for gaming. It uses the fish shell for the default user shell. I don't know if Linus will ever end up in a command line, but if he did, you would want him to expect your bash commands to work. So
I don't think he has the patience for a command line.
I don't think he does.
No, he is known to not know anything about command line.
Oh God.
But
so Linus comes from a background of Windows power user.
Yeah.
Where it's always more efficient in Windows to use the GUI than it is the command line.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even with modern PowerShell.
Well, we're going to disagree with some of that. I know. So
I'm talking about on Windows.
I don't believe anybody could legitimately argue that. Listen, I'm a GUI guy, but I do use some keyboard shortcuts, and I'm going to start using some key bindings and stuff.
Keyboard shortcuts are part of GUI.
Yeah.
But using command line,
mouse driven, OS is GUI based. I do a lot of that, and I was brought up on Windows, so that's kind of all I knew. And it's way more efficient to use the command line for the majority of tasks.
Well,
no, it's not.
Well, yeah.
It's not. It has been proven that it's not. It just seems more efficient because you are more engaged. You're doing things for a longer time. With GUI, there is more waiting for the same task if it's done with a command line where you're just writing more.
Yeah.
If you're doing a task that you don't know anything about, you know just what program. You're gonna do it a lot easier in a GUI than in a command line, because how will you find you need to go through a bunch of helps to get what command you need. Whereas with GUI you can just click and watch it. It is much faster. But when it is slightly faster to do it via command line, but only seems so because you are actually doing more, you're engaged more.
Well, obviously that's going to depend on the
I kind of disagree with that, because you've got a command history. You can hit the up arrow key and quickly navigate to with that functionality of being able to get commands in there quickly and just hit enter. I think that kind of takes away from the argument.
Yes, repetition tasks are slightly faster.
I want to insert myself into this debate here, if you guys give me a moment. But the difference between command line and GUI is that with the command line, you've already taken the time to look up the commands that you're putting in.
Yeah.
There comes a level of predictability with it. So if you're a command line
there's a
guy,
level of repeatability. Right.
Yeah. The levels of repeatability and predictability is just it gives you as the end user the feeling that the command line is more efficient when it might not be more efficient.
If you're in a Linux support forum or a Linux support chat, are you ever going to tell somebody how to fix something with the GUI, or are you going to give them a terminal command?
It depends if you're
going to give them a terminal command.
Have you ever been on ASCII?
I would agree with that it depends on the task.
Let me propose an experiment. We have some program that can both use GUI or CLI. It has all settings exposed in both. Now you need to change a specific setting. You do not know where it is located in either. Which will be faster?
Well, I mean, most of our Linux programs, MPV is command line or GUI.
Going up or down in history, you have to go from basics, learning where it is and all that. Which will be faster, GUI or CLI? I will say GUI will be faster, because you will open a window, see, is it there? No, close. With CLI, you have to go through help, through everything to find that specific setting to change it.
It's going to depend on the program too,
your knowledge of the program and all that. It is
like a really complicated program like GNU Find, for example, which if you read the man page, it's like it'd take you hours to read the man page for Find. Where you could use a graphical search and find tool to search for, things on your file system.
Yeah, I feel like that one would be quicker.
Sometimes Control F is actually a pretty good tool to have.
Now the difference is you can't use the GUI find thing in a script where you'd have to use, so it depends on what you're doing with something.
Depends on the use case.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, now I need to
CI
install Catfish back on my machine.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Catfish is good.
Of that is FMPEG. Is it easier for you to layer stuff on top of one another, or use OBS?
Yeah,
which is
or
faster?
editing images. Yes, there's command line ways to edit an image,
Same with
but why,
videos. You can edit
why
with
would you do that?
FMPEG.
There are command line video editors.
Yes, they are. Should use them? No.
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 Again, it's the right tool for the right task on that.
And also TLDR is a handy tool.
I love TLDR. I use it all the time.
Yeah, me too. It covers like 98% of all cases.
Yeah. Instead of reading, a massive man page that most of the commands you'll never use ever in your life, TLDR just gives you the 10 most common usages for that command.
And it's a charm. It's a simple charm.
It's perfect. Mm-hmm.
Do they have a TLDR in man pages for a lot of programs in Linux now?
Most.
For
Sweet.
Yeah. So you just TLDR name a program and get the.
Yeah, that's been a thing for ever. Yeah, I use that.
Yeah.
The most common use is quick commands. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you still sometimes need to dig through a man page when you're looking for really strange stuff you're trying to do with a certain command. But most of the time, TLDR is what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can speed up an intermediate step in the command line. I guess there's, you don't have to decide either between GUI or fully command line. I think there's a gray middle way somewhere nested in between.
There is
really,
a
that's
great.
where you eventually fall in anyway.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say is, sometimes you're on machines that don't have a graphical environment where you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Then you need to know how to use the command line.
I should probably
I want a command line interface VPN. For command line interface VPN.
They exist.
I don't use VPN, so I couldn't comment on that.
It's called
Express
WireGuard
VPN.
or OpenVPN. Just pick one,
Yeah.
and it works.
ExpressVPN and Nord also do work, but they have weird logging stuff and
anything that has OVP can get you an OVPN file will work just fine.
Yeah.
Because that's basically the protocol they run on the back end, unless they're WireGuard.
Sweet.
Well, guys, we're got a few more minutes before the top of the hour, and we've got quite a few people here. So let's give everybody a chance to take a minute and get a word in here before we go. Ben, you got any last words, last thoughts?
Well, one more thing before we conclude. I had a quick question for Big Pod. So I just copied my personal access token from GitHub, and I'm not sure where to store it.
Where you want. You can store. I would recommend something like Password Manager, so it is encrypted. But you can store it where you want.
Yeah, all nano, psk.text.
You can do that as well.
I would store it somewhere
where it's safe,
where you're gonna know it's there too. Don't put it somewhere where you
put it in psk.text.
Yeah, but you can create a new one basically whenever you want. So.
Okay. Cool.
That was a great.
Now, how do I get it into my repo? Is my next question.
You just need to instead of writing a password in your command line when you're doing that, just need to put this token. It's a replacement for a password.
Okay.
Basically.
Wherever I put my password when I normally push
for
things,
GitHub,
I just put it.
For GitHub, you just put that token instead.
Or
so instead of
alternatively, learn how to do all this through SSH.
Yeah.
No.
Because you can SSH into GitHub.
Use SSHI and declare the file, and you're good to go. Its keys are a charm as well.
Well, let's get him set up on the personal access token before we confuse him with anything.
I, for example, use 0 SSH keys on for any kind of Git repositories.
All right. Well, hopefully you get that worked out, Big Pod. If not, I don't have a GitHub account, so maybe maybe you could hit up Big Pod if you had any
Extra
questions. Yeah.
All right.
Big Pod, give us a last word, sir.
Have a nice day, everyone. And we'll see you next month, I guess.
Yeah, we should be back here in October.
Yeah.
It's strange that it's so close to the end of the year. It seems like this year flew by. Yeah, it's crazy.
That indeed.
Big Pod, I did want to ask you how the job search was going. Are you working?
No, not yet, but I am in some somewhat serious conversation with one of the companies that I sent an application to. So hopefully, fingers crossed, by the next month I will be employed.
I would expect you to be, because right now, the way the job market is, everybody is looking for people that have some experience, especially with open source. That's kind of a hot thing right now. So the fact that you have such, a knowledge of this stuff, I can't imagine that you're going to go unemployed for very long. So
absolutely,
I got rejected by a Linux by a company looking for a Linux. Let's call people who know Linux.
Uh-huh.
And I got rejected for not having experience, even though I am involved in making a Linux distribution. That was a fun one.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I even got from a guy who I know who isn't in Linux, who is IT, but he does Microsoft stuff. He said, "Wait a second, seriously, they rejected you even though you develop a Linux distro. Those guys are idiots."
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because I can, and not just, I imagine everybody sitting on this chat right now, because I know most of you guys know a little bit what you guys do with Linux. You probably know more than most entry-level system administrators. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, right.
Yeah.
I on a weekly basis, actually, on a weekly basis, I embarrass the ISP's server administration.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
it's like a team of 5 guys, and they constantly have to ask me questions for their Debian server.
Yeah. Well, good luck in the job search, Big Pod. Let's get Gabriel. Last word, sir.
Well, this is only my second time here, and I'm enjoying it. It's
Hey!
We got a dog barking. Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah. I'm enjoying being here. It's nice to just sit in and I like it.
Yeah, it's a different kind of chat with nerds, right? It's
it's nice being here because, well, a lot of my friends and stuff don't really get Linux and all that. I've tried to convert them. They aren't having any of it. One of them in particular just actively dislikes it because they couldn't get it working in a VM. I'm not sure about the specifics of that, but yeah. My parents are both actively terrified of Linux because they tried to install Red Hat before I was born and they messed up.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are like that, though, because I talk to them all the time, people that tried to install Linux back in the 90s. And I have to compile my kernel, and I got to install it from 18 different floppy disks. And it's like, whoa, things have changed. Things have changed a lot. Well, thank you, Gabriel, for hanging out with us.
You're welcome.
All right. Jean-Michel, give us the last word, sir.
Yeah. So first, I want to thank everyone for the nice chat. So it's always interesting to hear about all the discussions. And I have nothing special, so I'm maybe the only one thing that I can say. I was quite happy yesterday. I could move an 87 grandma to Linux.
Nice.
And she's quite happy.
What's she running?
I installed Mint on her machine.
Mint?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. I think that's a good choice for new users still. Now, they
do too.
disagree with me on Destination Linux, but I have a few clients on Mint, and they're pretty happy. Well, the one is not. She said she didn't like it, the most recent one, but we're going to work on that.
I've put people on Mint Cinnamon. I've put people on Ubuntu with GNOME. I've put people on Linux Lite with XFCE.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I've had good success with a bunch of different Ubuntu-based distros. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I install it. I install it on people's machines. I never hear from them. Like I've never, no problems. So.
I might try Solus once more on her machine.
Yeah, Solus is another good one. Anything else, Jean-Michel?
Had issues.
No, I'm fine, and
all right.
I wish you all a good end of the day or a good evening, depending where you are. And I hope we see you next month.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Joshua, you got anything that's not Red Hat related to talk about on your last word?
Not Red Hat related? What about Gentoo related?
We can do that.
Yeah.
Well,
at least that's a real distribution.
Okay, guys. Just remember,
easy now.
We have this wonderful thing. It's called free and open source software. So if you ever have to ask for why I do anything that I do, just remember it's my GNU given right to do so. And that I also highly encourage that we have these wonderful tools called virtual machines and containers. If you're ever curious, why don't you just simply try it?
Wow. I love it when people put GNU in places it doesn't belong. So, all right.
It belongs there.
It's a brand GNU day.
Right.
All right. Moving along. Mark, do you have a last word for us, sir?
You can find me at Yates Networks on my tech channel, and I have a cover channel at American Legend is what I'm calling it now. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what's the dog?
Oh, this is she's a miniature Eskimo Spitz. Her name is Maggie.
Pretty girl. I like it.
There's Scooter Melvin.
Yeah.
Weird name for a cat.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
George, you want to give us the last words?
Yeah, absolutely. I missed giving last word last one. I had to step away and it was running. But thanks to everybody and their feedback and their input and things they had to say, and ACT for hosting. And a couple of years ago, I think it was a couple of years ago now in the summer, I kind of half-heartedly joked about Edge OS, and I think the more I see of Windows 11, I think it may have come true.
Yeah, that's kind of where modern operating systems are going with Chrome OS, and of course Microsoft will eventually get there with their own browser-based operating system.
Yep.
Yeah, eventually you're going to see it on Linux too. Don't be surprised if Firefox eventually decides to be their own operating system rather than just a browser.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. So.
By the way, I just copy-pasted that Git token in. Worked just fine. Now my packages are all updated.
Awesome. So, I'm glad we've got that solved. George, anything else before we go?
No, that's it. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate you, George. All right, Stefan, give us the last word, sir.
Yeah, well, thanks to everyone for your knowledgeable discussion and all the interesting things. You gotta move on, and I've heard about, and I will definitely stay curious as always, because that's what we're here for and nothing else. And I highly appreciate the opportunity to discuss with you guys, and really appreciate it. Thanks, Derek, for hosting and creating the opportunity, and for your work as usual. And yeah, I hope you have a nice rest of the day ahead. It's kind of dark. I'm going to have a chill Sunday evening now, and yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, appreciate it, Stefan. All right, Quinn, are you there? Would you like to give us the last word?
Yeah, it's been fun. This is my first time, obviously, so yeah, I enjoyed listening, and hopefully as I progress with Linux, I'll be able to input more during these.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, feel free to interrupt these guys when they go on their rants about Windows and Gentoo and things that, you know, most people really don't care about. You know, most normal people don't care about Windows and Gentoo. You know, feel free to interrupt them and move us on to something a little more appropriate. Yeah. Otherwise, they'll talk all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
All right. I appreciate you hanging out with us, Quinn. And of course, before we go, I need to give a last word too, because I want to thank all the patrons that joined us here on camera. I want to thank you guys. The discussions this week I thought were really interesting. I also want to thank everybody in the YouTube chat, because we did get a lot of good questions and comments from the YouTube chat this week. It wasn't quite as asinine as a YouTube chat can be sometimes. This week it was pretty good. The other thing I want to do is I want to thank the patrons that couldn't be here, because there were a lot of folks that couldn't join us on camera. So I'm going to show some names on the screen right now. I want to thank each and every one of those ladies and gentlemen. And other than that, have a great day. All right, guys. Wave bye to the YouTubes.
Bye.
Goodbye. Have a good
Bye.
one.
Bye. Don't forget to